Welcome to Full Week of Workouts, where I'm gonna show you guys exactly what I do on a weekly basis to take my body from looking like this to this. Now, starting off with the schedule and my split, because that's super important to me and it should be important to you. What a split is basically your schedule and how you split up different muscle groups to work out within the week. Now, this is what mine looks like. Monday, lower body strength focus. This just means that I'm doing my legs, but I'm doing lower reps, higher weight. Tuesday, lower, can you shut up, dogs? Tuesday, upper body strength focused. Basically the same thing, upper body workout, but lower reps, higher weight. Wednesday is a rest day. Thursday is legs, again. Friday, push, your chest, shoulders, and triceps, higher volume. So less weight, more reps. Saturday is pull, back and biceps, lower weight, higher reps. Now, if I successfully tricked you into thinking that I actually go on jogs like this, I did a good job, because I don't do this at all.
Starting off with Monday, we got lower body strength focused, and I did not want to go to the gym. I had a minor inconvenience with a close person to me, and it really just got me down, and I didn't want to go, but I hopped in the car anyway and decided to go. And let me tell you, it was a beautiful Monday night, about an 8 p.m. workout. The sky was blossoming in front of my face, and it just really had me going. So I pulled up to the gym, got some warm-ups going, leg swings in all directions with assisted pull-ups just to get some blood flow all around, especially my lats. And I also did some moving around in a deep squat. This is just good for opening up my hips and ankles. Very efficient, not complicated, just an easy warm-up. Then I moved on to 3 sets of 4 with my squats after doing some warm-up squats with lighter weight. But I worked up to 275. And let me just talk about my stance really quick. So I've changed up my stance over the years, but I've finally gotten to the conclusion that a little slightly outside of shoulder width stance is best for me, with a slightly outward pointing toes. And this is one cue that has really helped me with my squats. So I think, or I imagine, that there's a paper underneath my feet, and I'm trying to rip this paper apart laterally. And so just think that you're trying to rip it apart with your feet. You know what I mean? What this is going to do is really engage your hips. Hips are just such an important and neglected factor in squatting. Everybody thinks of their quads, their hamstrings, their glutes, but your hips are just very important. So what this is going to do is engage your hips and make sure that you're really optimally squatting. Now, something else that's super important and that I want to talk about is you'll notice that I take these deep breaths in between each and every rep. So that's called bracing. And what I'm doing is breathing in through my stomach and bracing my core, not bracing my core like I'm trying to take a cute picture and look, nice and smexy and lean, but I'm trying to brace my core as in, holy shiz, there's a couple 100 pounds on my back. So it's basically like filling up your hypothetical can. So you don't want to be like an empty can of beans, right? You want to be like full compact. So I'm breathing in through my stomach, bracing, and then I'm going down, and then at the top, I'm breathing out again. That's that story. Now moving on to hip thrusts. We got 3 sets of 8 with 275 pounds again. Something that you guys should keep in mind is just keeping your ankles below your knees, so, stacked on top of each other.
It feels kind of odd hip thrusting right here, because I just have the entire freaking gym staring at my freaking taters.
Keep your shoulder blades just onto the pad, not too far, or else you won't be able to get the right range of motion, but just far enough to where you don't slide off and you have the correct range of motion. Now you're going to push your hips to the air like you really don't care and squeeze your butt cheeks together at the top of each rep. And whilst doing this, try to keep a posterior pelvic tilt, which is essentially the opposite of an anterior pelvic tilt. Anterior pelvic tilt is what you'll see girls do on Instagram when they're trying to have a bigger booty. No, you want to do the opposite of that. So essentially keeping your tailbone tucked under you and humping something aggressively. That's just the best explanation I have. Yeah, so I did those. They felt pretty good, but hip thrusts for me personally, I just feel like my hamstrings are gonna cramp in every set. So I'm basically just fighting through the set, trying not to have a freaking terrible hamstring cramp, like crying on the gym floor. You know, that would just not be fun. So moving on, we got 3 sets of 10 RDLs, Romania deadlifts. I did 95 pounds in each hand. Here are some things you want to keep in mind. Your knees should have only a slight bend, you know, not too far like you're squatting, but just a slight bend. That way you don't break your knees when they're fully locked out. Keep a neutral back. Stay away from that cat back, baby. And put most of your weight in your heels. This is going to help get more tension in your hamstrings. So as you stick your butt back and tilt at the hips, you're just going to feel an intense burn in the hammies, baby, all the way down. And then squeeze your glutes to bring the weight back up. And something else you'll also notice is that I'm using straps. I feel like straps are just super duper important if you're trying to make any types of, you know, awesome extensive gains in the gym. So make sure you invest in some straps. I'll link some down below. Gosh, I can't talk. All right, play this song and listen to the entire thing all the way throughout and let all the potentially traumatic experience from your childhood all build up, and then just let them out right there at the end where the beat drops. You'll thank me later. Now moving on, we got 3 sets of 15 leg extensions with 145 pounds plus a drop set. So what you're gonna wanna do is squeeze your quads to bring up the weight. I mean, it doesn't get more complicated than that. Just, you know, that's about it. Basically, just try and get a good, nice squeeze. I like to keep my feet close together and toes slightly pointed in. This way I can put more of an emphasis on my outer quad, which unfortunately is the hardest to grow. So, you know, that's why I do that. But if you wanted to get the inner part of your quad, you could just point your toes pointing outward. So there's a little tip for you. And then I hit a drop set. You know, the drop set these things are burning, baby. They're just burning. And I think I got a phone call actually. Oh, no, I didn't. No, I did not. That was another day. But yeah, those things burn. Tuesday, upper body strength focused. Now for warm up, I did body weight pull-ups. Just, you know, got enough pull-ups. I wasn't really counting. Just get a nice little amount of pull-ups because that was going to set me up perfectly for my weighted pull-ups. 3 sets of 5 using 50 pounds. And by the way, you don't have to do weighted pull-ups. Of course, they can be assisted or body weight or weighted, just depending on where you're at in your journey. Now, I personally like to put my hands just outside of shoulder width. This is easier on my shoulders. And then I wedge my feet around the dumbbell on its side. And usually I would use a weighted dip belt or just a weighted belt. But somehow it disappeared into the wilderness of nowhere, and now I don't have a weighted belt. This is my alternative to that. So if you don't have a dip belt or a weighted belt, wedge your feet around some dumbbells, baby. That's how it goes. Now, this helps me overload my pull-ups and also strengthens my tibialis and forces me to engage my core instead of putting my legs across behind me like you'll see gym bros do so often. I don't go all the way down on each rep. I like to, you know, just barely go down enough to where it's not a fully extended elbow. And this is going to help me keep my lats engaged because if I do go all the way down, I have to retract my scapula, which makes it harder to engage my lats. And I don't want to make things harder than they already need to be when my main goal is just getting a juicy sculpted back, baby. You know the deal. Bench press, 3 sets of 5, baby. All right, starting with the floor, we have my feet. They are wide like a sumo stance. I've found that it gives me the best leg drive and stability, which is very important. Leg drive, put in simple terms, is basically just to maintain pressure between all 3 points that should be touching any grounded surfaces, which is your feet touching the ground, your butt touching the bench, and your upper back also touching the bench. Your legs should be driving your body so hard backwards that you almost would slide right off the back of the bench if you went any harder. If that makes any sense, I have some arrows pointing in the direction you should be maintaining pressure. Also, keeping your scapula retracted back and down helps your shoulders stay healthy and puts more emphasis on your chest. Now, I like to keep my arms at about a 70-degree angle just to keep some stress off of my shoulders. I bring the bar down right below my sternum. A common mistake would be bringing the bar straight down And that's an easy way to choke yourself, I guess, if you're into that.
That's a PR. That's a PR, baby.
Next up, we got single arm dumbbell rows, 3 sets at 8. I used 95 pounds here. And once again, you'll see these straps come in handy, baby. Like, there's no way I could overload my back to the extent that I have if I didn't have straps, because without them, you would only be doing your back training to the extent that your grip strength could go. So this just helps you go beyond your grip strength. Now, again, sumo stance works best for me. Neutral back, pull the weight to my opposite back pocket. I also think of my hands like hooks. This ensures that I'm pulling using my back instead of my biceps. Now you'll notice that I have some body language. Some would say this is bad form because there's some movement in my spine, but all I know is that my back blew up once I really started training rows aggressively, which doesn't mean swinging the weight around. You can see that I'm still in complete control of the eccentric and concentric part of the movement, which is just fancy terms for the pulling up and down part of the lift. Next up, we got dumbbell incline bench, 3 sets of 12. I started out with 60 pounds for the first set and then 65 for the second 2. One really important thing when doing any dumbbell press is knowing how to set up. You want to have the weight on your quads as far down without being on your kneecaps, because that would just freaking hurt. And this will give you the best leverage to kick the weight up while you lean back so you can be in the best position to start pressing. By the way, that little kicking the weight up is the only calf work I will be participating in. Now once I'm ready to go, I have a slight arch keeping the 3 contact points that we talked about earlier, the same elbows flared at about 70 degrees for shoulder health, and I ascend the weight down as far as possible without having shoulder pain or letting the dumbbell hit my chest. One thing that I've started doing is pointing my thumbs slightly up at the top of each rep. This helps me engage and squeeze more of my chest, because one thing I'm really focusing on is upper chest development. Who doesn't want that smexy shelf on their chest, baby? I know I do.
What up, bro?
All big, like all huge.
Hey, thanks.
That shit out. All right,
Thanks, bro. Making me blush.
Now we're on the preacher curl machine, baby. We got 1 set of 18 reps with 50 pounds and then 2 sets of 10 with 75 pounds. This is just a very clean, simple exercise. There's not much to explain besides curl that sucker and get a nasty pump, baby. You can see that I control the weight very slowly on the way down. I'm really trying to just feel my bicep throughout the entirety of the movement. One cue that I found really helpful is thinking about putting more pressure into my pinkies when squeezing at the top of each rep. You can do this for any bicep exercise, not just preacher curls. I don't let the weight go 100% of the way down because I feel like the tension gets moved to my forearms at that point. And I don't want that considering I'm trying to focus on my biceps in this movement.
That was the hardest bicep curls that I've ever done, bro.
Cable rope tricep extensions, 3 sets of 20. I really got some high reps here. I love doing high volume for my triceps. And while I do these, I aspire to have the most upright position as possible. I try to keep my elbows tight and in the same position while moving the weight by solely squeezing my triceps. But as the set goes on, you can see my form changes in order to get more volume into the muscle. This extra volume at the expense of form breakdown isn't a bad thing in this case, considering this exercise has a very low risk of injury. So do whatever you can just to get as many reps as possible. Just don't be like this guy. Now we got cable rope face pulls. I set the height of the cable at about my forehead, and then I grab the rope with my palms facing towards each other. Then I pull the weight to my forehead, keeping my thumbs pointing back, almost resembling a front double bicep pose. Daddy C-bone, baby. This is such a good exercise for shoulder health, overall posture, and rear delt gains. We tend to live in an internally rotated state sitting in our desks at work or school, and this exercise trains the muscles that reverse that bad posture, training our shoulders to be strengthened in an externally rotated state. Here, I just did one all-out set closest to failure without terrible form breakdown, which just means I went as hard as I can until I got to the point where I had bad form, and then I just stopped. Then I hit a drop set and got an even better contraction. I highly recommend this exercise for anyone with arms, of course. Now that we've gotten through our 2 strength-focused days, I really like to take a rest day on that Wednesday to give my body a break and let my body kind of refuel, get some good food in, and that way I can go 100% on the following Thursday, second leg day of the week. I warmed up my squats just with some lighter squats, worked up to this 225, and this is the set where I really gauge and see what weight I'm going to be using for the top sets. So I ended up doing 3 sets of 8 with 255, and same things that I explained earlier, just bracing, correct stance, and getting down to parallel. So, you know, don't be a quarter squatter. Nobody likes that. One thing I've noticed is that I must have like 0 fast twitch muscle fibers, because with just 20 pounds more, half the amount of reps is extremely hard, like you saw earlier in the week. But with just 20 pounds less, I can do double the reps. Anyways, I really did not want to do my 3rd set of these squats, I'm not gonna lie. That set really slapped me. Narrow Smith machine squats, 3 sets of 15 to 20, and then we have a drop set to some sissy squats. So with these narrow Smith machine squats, I was using 155 pounds, and I've just started doing these. They help me focus on quad activation without having to worry about stability like a regular barbell squat would have. And I keep my stance narrow, allowing me to get my knees further over my toes to get a deep stretch in my quads. And for this one, I pretend that there's a paper under my feet, just like the other squats, but instead of ripping them laterally apart, I want to think that I'm trying to slide the paper forward. What this is going to do is kind of give me like a leg extension type feel, where my quads just get a really intense contraction at the top of each squat. And then I do a drop set to sissy squats, and I just started doing these as well. Now, if you think you felt a stretch in your quads, this will make you think your quads are going to rip off. I'm telling you right now, and I love it. I keep my hips fully extended, making an L shape at the bottom of each rep. I use the bar as an assistance because without it, I would quickly be on one of those gym fail videos. I'm not trying to do that. Next up, we got 2 sets of 15 leg press. Not quite 3 sets, because that would just be torture. But I use 475 pounds here. My feet are lower on the platform again, allowing my knees to have a deeper range of motion, allowing for more quad activation and stretch. We've all seen the people loading up 8 to 9 plates on the leg press thinking it's cool. But it's only cool if you're actually doing the full range of motion. 475 is more than enough for me to have an absolute grueling set, leaving me wanting to pass away, or at least take like a 20-minute nap. 2 sets of 10 to 12 leg curls. Simple isolation exercise, not gonna lie, I have no idea how much weight I used here. I was just trying to get through the workout at this point. But this lift is really self-explanatory. I just advise you to try your best to get through it, slowly control on the way down, and then pray that you have the ability to complete your next rep. I like to keep my ankles dorsiflexed, which is basically an exotic term for an L shape at the ankle joint. Not that I think it makes a massive difference, that's just what I prefer. Now, moving on to leg curls, bigger and more attractive, brother. Leg extensions. 3 sets of 15. I used 150 pounds plus a drop set. Make sure that the machine is adjusted to where your feet go as far back under you in the stretched position as possible. There's usually like a little dial on the right hand side that you can just change this adjustment. To take this one step further, I bring the seat as far forward as possible so my feet go even further in the stretched position under me. I've just recently started doing this. Dang, this video kind of sounds like I just started training legs, you know, but whatever, maybe I did. I also like to keep my legs closer together and toes pointed slightly inward to target the outer sweep of my quads, just like I've explained earlier. If you want to target that inner quad again, just point your toe slightly outward and it will give you that teardrop looking muscle on the inner quad next to your kneecap. I make sure that my reps are controlled and I try my best to get a slight pause at the top of each rep. My third set is followed by a drop set where I drop the weight about 40% and then just burn it out even more. Now we got 3 sets of 15 to 20 standing calf raise, if you want. I'm not gonna show that because obviously it's optional. We all know calves are 200% genetic anyway, come on now. Friday, push day. I warmed up with some scapular retractions and protractions, then some forward and side arm raises just to get some blood flow throughout my body and shoulders. If you haven't noticed already, my warm-ups are very short and efficient. I don't like to waste much time in the gym. Not that warm-ups are a waste of time, but if I feel like I need more warm-ups and more time to go heavy, I'll just go light on whatever exercise it is that I'm doing. Then I'll just work up to my heavier sets. Started off with flat dumbbell bench, 3 sets of 8. Same exact setup as the incline bench press explained earlier in the video, except the bench is flat, obviously. I went super hard here, using the 85s for the first set, then 90s for the last 2. I genuinely thought I was going to catastrophically drop the weight on my face on that last rep. Also, when you bring the weight down, try to extend your arms fully out and then just kind of drop the weight forward as you're falling forward while bringing your knees up to the weight. That way you don't just smash your knees, and that's just going to make it a lot easier on the descent from the lift. Or you can just drop it like an absolute alpha. It's up to you. Just make sure nobody's got their freaking toes out wearing sandals on the bench next to you. Incline barbell press, 3 sets of 12. I prefer putting my pinky just inside the first ring on the bar, but every bar is slightly different depending on what gym you're at, so I suggest putting your hands just wide enough so your wrist joint is stacked over your elbow joints at the bottom of each rep. If you go too wide on your grip, it's going to put unnecessary stress on your shoulder, and if you go too narrow, you'll just have better triceps. So, better to go narrow than too wide. I went with 155 pounds for the first 2 sets and ended up failing the 12th rep of my second set. I hate myself.
I actually saved them though, shoot.
Without darkness, there ain't light. Without failure, there's not success. I'm pretty sure this happened because I went too hard on my first exercise, which took a tremendous toll on the rest of my workout. So then I dropped the weight down and did a nice easy set with 135. 1 arm hammer strength flat bench, 3 sets of 15. I just started incorporating these into my push days. The trick is to slightly diagonally sit towards the arm that you are pressing with. This is going to enable you to press across your body instead of pressing straight forward, which is going to give you a sweet chest contraction. I like to have my shoulder blade halfway off the bench. That way I can keep my scapula fully retracted, just like all of our other pressing movements. My free hand is feeling my upper chest just to make sure that I'm getting some nice juicy contractions. One cue that really helps me engage my chest is thinking about pushing my bicep as close to my chest as possible instead of mindlessly pushing the weight. Cable chest flies, 3 sets of 15. Set up the cable just above shoulder height, then you walk the weight out, and once you get to your preferred stance, keep one leg back for some nice stability. Then with a slight bend in your elbows, pretend like you're hugging someone with your juicy chest muscles. I don't let my elbows go too far behind my body because my shoulders don't like doing that. This specific cable fly machine is not my favorite because there's no option to widen out the cables further from each other, which makes the tension come more from the side and less from behind, which would be so much better in my opinion. So if you have this cable machine at your gym, you lucky bastard. Cable overhead tricep extension, 3 sets of 15. The hardest part about this lift is just getting the weight up. It's really hard to explain, so just watch me do it. It's kind of like a rotating slow dance move, except your date is named Iron, and she's overweight. Literally. I try my best to keep my elbows nice and tucked without too much flare, but as the set goes on, I tend to flare them more and more until I telepathically communicate to Ronnie Coleman for some lightweight, baby, and a few extra reps. And obviously, he ends up sending them. Earlier in the week, we did regular tricep extensions, which placed more emphasis on the lateral head of your tricep, which is the outer part. But now that we're doing them overhead, it places more emphasis on the long head of the tricep, which is the biggest and beefiest part of the tricep. And when developed, this head is what makes your arms look massive. Lateral raises, 3 sets of 15. These bad boys target your shoulders, specifically your mid delts. I like to think of moving the weight outwards, not up. I feel like this cue helps me engage more of my shoulders and less of my traps. I keep a slight bend because it's really easy for your traps and upper back to kind of take over if you do this lift wrong. I keep a slight bend in my elbows and try to lead the movement with my elbows instead of my wrists. You can see that the body language gets more profound as the set goes on. That's me just trying to get some extra juice. I also hit a few drop sets, going from 27.5s to 15s, then 7.5 pound dumbbells. I wasn't really counting reps at that point, just feeling the intense burn in my shoulders. Saturday, pull day, my favorite day. 3 sets of 12 to 15 pull-ups. These can also be assisted if you're not able to do body weight yet. And I kind of like to think of this like a warm-up, but they're also pretty intense, so we can call these foreplay. I do the conventional overhand grip. That way I'm not getting my biceps or lats too tired and just getting some nice blood flow to both. That way I can get a much better feel for my back and bis as the workout moves forward. Speaking of moving forward, next up we got single arm dumbbell rows, 3 sets of 12. I already did these earlier in the week, but I love them so much. Why not do them twice? Only difference is this time we're adding 4 reps to the mix, spicing it up. I love letting my lats get a full and complete stretch at the bottom of each rep, then pulling explosively and giving it a slight pause at the top. I really do feel like as soon as I started getting stronger on this movement specifically, my back blew up. And your back is so important if you want to just look like a big aesthetic human with a V-taper. So do your dumbbell rows. Cable row, 3 sets of 15 followed by a double drop set. You can use whatever attachment that feels best for you. Personally, I like to use this wider neutral grip because it helps me get my elbows further back in the movement, creating more range of motion. I have a slight forward lean as the weight stretches my lats, then I pull back through my elbows, trying to bring the attachment to my upper ab. This is me hitting my drop sets, and at this point, I have such a nice back pump that I'm not even thinking of the pain. I'm just thinking of all the nice back gains that are happening. I don't even have a specific number of reps in my head, just until I can't do any more. Lat pull downs, 3 sets of 12 to 15, with another double drop set after the 3rd set. I place my hands just before that little downward bend on the bar. I feel like this personally gives me the best back contraction as possible. Where you put your hands, it all depends on your height and wingspan. So just experiment and see what you like best. Just like the pull-ups explained earlier, I don't allow my arms to fully straighten. I'm really trying to be mindful about pulling using my elbows instead of my arms. This way my back gets most of the load. You can see once again, I'm using straps just to overload my back. The drop sets here just feel absolutely euphoric. Incline curls, 3 sets of 10 to 12. If you think you felt intense burn in your biceps, think again, my boy. These things will make you wish you had been training incline curls in the womb, so by the time I recommended you to do them right now, you'd have built up the immunity to such an immense burning sensation. Like, I'm not even joking. Set the bench slightly on an incline, just enough so your arms are slightly behind you when they are down by your sides. Now, basically, keep your shoulders back and down as you curl the weight. Nothing serious, nothing crazy, just a crazy burn. Preacher curl supersetted with rear delt flies, both with 15 reps. We already went over preacher curls, so y'all should be fine if you are paying even 10% attention. Sit at the very edge of a bench or seat, bend all the way over. Now that you look like a hunchback of Notre Dame getting railed by the gym seat, point your thumbs towards each other, pinkies opposite of each other, and move the weight by moving it outward, not up. This way your rear delt will get all the work. I personally feel like a lot of people neglect their rear delts, but if you train them seriously, you can really get that 3D delt look. Now, I really wanted to make this video for anyone having any trouble in the gym, or maybe they're at a sticking point, don't know what to do. I just really wanted to share with you guys exactly what I do, and I hope you guys got some value. I hope I brought somewhat of a joy to your day, because that's what I'm trying to do at the end of the day. If you found any value in this video, please drop a like, maybe drop a comment for the algo, share with your friends, your mom, your grandma. I love all the love comments and the hate comments. They still boost the algo, so say what you want, will what you say. Now, thank you for watching. Seriously, you have a blessed day. Peace.
Really appreciate you watching the channel. I think you should hit the subscribe button. Thank you.
Subscribe.
Beep. Subscribe. Thank you very much. I'll see you later.